Hi, my name is Leah, and today I am presenting my research on the use of the rival model observational learning method to teach children with autism shades of color. So what is autism? Autism is characterized by a deficit in social emotional skills and restrictive and repetitive behavior patterns that are significant enough to impact everyday living. This is a definition from the DSM-5. Current autism prevalence is 1 in 68, and ABA, or Applied Behavior Analysis, is the most effective, efficient, and empirically validated treatment for autism. Modeling and observational learning are very popular techniques in the applied behavior analytic literature. Modeling and observational learning are often referred to as the same thing. However, modeling tends to be more of a deliberate action performed for a participant to copy, whereas observational learning tends to happen more naturalistically in the classroom or small group setting. Regardless, both modeling and observational learning can be done with a peer or adult who is familiar or unfamiliar to the child or the child themselves. Video modeling is the most popular form of modeling / observational learning, and this could be for several reasons. One being that you can make custom videos, so if there's any sort of intricate or bizarre scaling you need to teach a client, you can go ahead and shoot a video at home. There are pre-made videos for many things else. And our kiddos with autism really tend to like these videos, apparently. So the rival model observational learning method is a little bit different than observational learning or modeling. And the main fact is that it does not have a video or require you to create or make a video for every skill that you would like to teach, which is a good thing. So rival model learning was kind of popularized by Irene Pepperberg and her parrot Alex. In her studies, she had Alex in the lab with two human trainers who would have objects, who would name them or answer questions about them, and then receive a, reinforcer, or I guess reward would be maybe a better word. Alex would then observe them, and if he could come up with these same question-answering kind of behaviors, he would then receive a reinforcer or reward. If a question was answered incorrectly, an error correction procedure was implemented in that the rewarding item was taken away and Alex or one of the trainers was reprimanded for their incorrect answer. The first replication of this study to be done in the applied behavior analysis research was by Dixon and colleagues and is still in press. In this research, children were taught metaphorical extensions of private events and tested for the emergence of interverbal responses. A very similar procedure was used in the Dixon et al. Study as was used in this one, based on the rival model observational learning method. The purpose of my study is to extend the current literature and then to replicate the Dixon et al. Study with lower IQ and lower ages than in the previous study, and to include a generalization component as opposed to the emergence of equivalence. I had 3 participants participate in this study. The first was a 6-year-old named Abraham with an IQ of 53. The second was a 3-year-old named Martin with an IQ of 63, and the third was an 11-year-old named John with an IQ of 49. All 3 participants received ABA services at a clinic on campus, and all of them were seen to have engaged in some sort of echoing or copying behavior in the past. Additionally, all of them scored high enough on the Peak Direct Training module to qualify them to start on the Peak Generalization module. The materials used are the ones pictured below. The training stimuli are the notebook, glasses, and backpack, and the generalization stimuli are the mouse, nail polish, and scissors. The names required for correct tacks were plum, emerald, and clementine, as the children already had purple, green, and orange in their repertoire. The design used was a multiple baseline with embedded probe for generalization. The dependent variable was the correct color tact, and the independent variable was the rival model observational method. In baseline, we had the rival sitting next to the participant and across from me, the researcher. I held up the card so both the rival and the participant could see and ask, what color is it? In baseline, the rival was instructed to give no answer, and they were given no consequences. After their 6th trial block was completed, the participant was subjected to the same thing, where they were asked what color is it and given no consequences. For training, the setup was very much the same. The rival next to the participant, the researcher across. This time the rival was told to answer correctly, and when they did, they were given the participant's reinforcer, meaning whichever item the participant was working for during the study, or previous implementation that day, we used that same reinforcer, unless it was determined that the current one was different, whatever it was for the participant at the time. The participant was then asked the same thing after the rival completed their 6th trial block. However, the participant received no consequences at any time for correct or incorrect answering. Generalization was probed similarly in that the participants and the rival were asked what color is it. The rival was instructed to answer correctly. However, neither the participant nor the rival received any consequences at all during generalization probes. No consequences were delivered to the participant at any time during the study for correct or incorrect responding, only for attending behaviors while the rival was completing their 6th block trial. Additional measures were taken for procedural integrity, IOA, and social validity. Procedural integrity was taken both in training and in generalization, just to ensure that the methods were implemented correctly in both phases. IOA was taken and results were 100% for baseline, 99% for training, and 100% in generalization. And the social validity questionnaire assessed ease of implementation, likelihood to use procedure in the future, if the procedure produced meaningful change, and if they felt that the rival model was superior to typical direct training approaches. The rival model themselves, as well as the rival model's typical assistant, filled out the social validity questionnaires, as they were the people most often working with those particular clients. Results from social validity questionnaire indicate that rival models felt the procedure did produce a meaningful change and that it was superior when compared to typical discrete trial training. For the other questions, rival model averages were on the neither or no answer. Here are our results. On the x-axis, we have trial blocks, and on the y-axis, we have percentage correct. The circle data indicates the accuracy for tacting. The open circles are generalization probes, and the solid squares are mass trial training. So here for Abraham at the top, you can see his baseline was in 0, and it jumped. His accuracy jumped in training, was very variable, and then ended up being back down at baseline levels for a little bit before jumping up midway to about 70, and from there staying above 70 for the most part until he mastered the skill. He also mastered generalization as well. Martin here in the middle also had baseline at 0 and baseline for a while in training with some variable rises in responding for training stimuli and just zeros across the board for generalization. You can see after that last increase in score, mass trial training was introduced for participant 2, which immediately increased his scores. We had high but variable amounts of data that eventually led to mastery for training and not for generalization. Here for John down at the bottom, he has 0 in baseline and again 0 in training, similarly to Martin. So mass trial training was again introduced. Mass trial training improved accuracy of responding up to mastery levels after some high but variable responding for John. John fortunately mastered generalization as well, and you can see his kind of mid-level responding right there after mass trial training was introduced. So for discussion, of course, the study has some limitations as well as some future research to be looked at. One of the limitations is reinforcement. So there is a modification of the reinforcement delivery from the Dixon study as well as from Pepperberg's original rival model technique. The Dixon study did not implement consequences in any shape or form throughout the study, whereas we did for attending behaviors. Pepperberg also had Alex on a constant reinforcement schedule for correct responding. Additionally, a limitation could have been posed by the use of a secondary reinforcer for one of the participants. He was on a token system instead of a food edible like the other 2 participants, and so that may have impacted his scores. Also, human error. While it was stated that there was no reinforcement given at any time during the study, it could have been accidentally given through, tone, pitch, eye gaze, or body movement. Additionally, participant 3 did not reach generalization. To combat this, researchers could use multiple exemplar training and replace the current stimuli class, or check the generalization gradient to ensure that the stimuli tested for generalization salient feature is not too far different from the one used in training. Future research could look at prerequisite skills for observational learning. Is there anything else these kids need to do to be able to learn from others? As well as provide a observation or attending check to the methods for the rival model. Often during the study, it was hard to assess whether the participant was listening quietly or not listening at all and just sitting quietly. Having some sort of observation or attending check may increase accurate responding, as we are assured that the participant is fully listening and aware of the rival. I think it would be interesting to see this rival model method used in a small group format, which could optimize learning. It would also be interesting to see if the rival model is as successful when using a sibling or peer as the rival, or when using negative consequences, such as if the participant was able to see the rival model, run into a busy road or get in the van with a stranger, and having them experience or observe the negative consequence for the rival, if they would be less likely to engage in that behavior as they were more likely to engage in the behavior when the rival got a reinforcer. In conclusion, much research needs to be done in the future to provide a solid base for this method as a valid one for teaching children with autism or anybody at all, anything. I think additionally it would be interesting to have more research done on the mechanism used in this model to produce behavior change. As participants did not receive reinforcement, they did not receive a kind of discrimination between correct and incorrect answers. So the mechanism behind the rival model needs some more research. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.